WWE feels different in 2026, and that's not by accident. And these are 5 changes that have actually made it a much better product than it used to be. Number 1 here is the death of gimmick pay-per-views. You know what I'm talking about, the Hell in a Cells, the TLCs, the Extreme Rules. Pay-per-views that tried to monetize the excitement and allure of matches like Hell in a Cell, which is supposed to be the blow-off of a feud, and for many years it was. From The Undertaker and Mankind, to Triple H and Batista, Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, the very first one, and probably the best one if you ask anybody. Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker did it twice. It used to be the culmination of a blood feud where there was no other way to settle it. It was the most devastating match in the company, and you only used it when it was absolutely necessary. But WWE saw the opportunity, $signs, 2009, we got the very first Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and from then on, Hell in a Cell became a shell of its former self. No matter what was on the card, no matter who was feuding, a Hell in a Cell match was a guaranteed championship match on the show. And yeah, there were some times where we got Cena and Orton in a blood feud where it made sense to be in Hell in a Cell. Other times we got CM Punk and Ryback, who hadn't even had a match yet. And then the following year, we got, get this, CM Punk and Ryback. 2 CM Punk and Ryback Hell in a Cell matches. That sounds like a war crime. And then we have TLC, which TLC was made famous by the Hardys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys at WrestleMania. It made sense, it fit their characters. Edge and Christian, the masters of the steel chair, the concerto, the Hardys, the ladder match demons, and the Dudley boys, who were the table masters. So it made sense you put all 3 of these together and they had some classic matches, but you had a formula that worked. In particular, in tag matches, TLC became a staple. And we had some great TLC matches over the years with Edge, like Edge and Cena at Unforgiven 2006. We had that match with Ric Flair on Raw, which was kind of random, but actually was a kind of a killer match, considering the fact that Ric Flair was like 107 at the time. But then we got the TLC pay-per-view, because it's another way to monetize it. Also happened in 2009. I'm starting to see a pattern. But it wasn't just, oh, we're going to have a TLC match in the main event. It was, we're going to have tables matches. We're going to have ladder matches on the same card as TLC matches. We're going to have chairs matches, which is, I guess, just a no DQ match, but there's only chairs available. Like, what happens if you grab the ring bell? Do you get disqualified? Do you have to only use chairs? I've always wondered. And then, 2014, we got the first ever tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs. We got a stairs match. What is a stairs match? You can look it up. I don't want to talk about it again. You can't make me. It was an absolute dumpster fire of a concept, and it completely muddied the impact that matches like TLC and Hell in a Cell had. So, WWE in modern years has axed those. Since 2022, we've had 2 Hell in a Cell matches, one with Cody and Seth at the final Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, which was a great match, and honestly, that feud did warrant Hell in a Cell. It was the final match, and they told a great story, helped by the fact that Cody's pec was torn. Then we didn't see it again until 2024, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre at Bad Blood. Another feud that earned it. We actually got blood this time, and it's been over a year and we haven't seen it since. And that's the way it should be. Unless you have a feud that has earned it, we don't need to see it. And I don't even remember, I think the last TLC match we had was SummerSlam, and the tag match before that, it would have been probably the last TLC pay-per-view. If you make them special, they'll be special. If you just prostitute them out, it means nothing. So that's one thing that WWE changed that I think has really helped, especially those match types feel significant again. Now, number 2 is another Vince trope. No more banned words. We can say wrestling again. How great is that? World Wrestling Entertainment. We can say wrestling on the show. Yay. Other words like wrestler, wrestling, belt, hospital. Again, we had the local medical facility. Oh, remember that one. For some reason, Vince just had these weird obsessions with these words that shouldn't be said on TV. It made literally no sense. I have no idea why he was so adamant about these words not being said. But as soon as Vince was gone, I think like a week or 2 after, we had Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre in the ring. And Drew McIntyre in the promo said, "We're wrestlers in a wrestling ring. Let's just freaking wrestle." It like blew my mind because I didn't realize at the time how sorely like missed just verbiage, like normal verbiage like that was missed, because it's so awkward when you replace it with words that just people wouldn't use. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So many Vince-isms like that are gone. I'm so glad they're gone, because he had these weird obsessions with things that just didn't matter. And it helps promos not sound like these corporate scripts anymore. Like, if a wrestler wants to use verbiage, let them use it. Let them have their own identity. And although I do think still promos are too scripted, it helps. It makes them a little bit more natural. And number 3 here, match quality. Now, I'm not saying matches were bad under Vince or before the last couple years, but you've definitely noticed, especially on TV, the match quality has increased. Better wrestlers are given more opportunities. Guys like Gunther, who was just this gimmick under Vince for the first month, was able to just go out and have kick-ass matches and have that Intercontinental title reign where he was having classics with Sheamus, Chad Gable. He brought a great match out of The Miz, and we were getting that on Raw. Like, stuff like that was not commonplace under Vince, and it was nice to see the match quality increase. It was nice to see great wrestlers get opportunities to just have great wrestling matches, and it makes the shows overall better. Could it be better? Sure. Compared to like AEW Dynamite, is it the same? No, it's still sports entertainment. But you can definitely see there was a major shift from 2022 onward, where the quality of the matches on the shows on a regular basis just felt more wrestling. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, the biggest takeaway of all of this is wrestling has been able to feel more like wrestling again than it has in a very long time. Because Vince always tried his hardest to separate himself from wrestling because he didn't want to be what his dad was. He didn't want to be wrestling. He wanted to be his own thing. He wanted to be an entertainment promoter. So he used wrestling as kind of the branch to get him to where it is. And now we have a good hybrid because now people know that it's the expectation of entertainment, and it made wrestling bigger than it had ever been. But that doesn't mean people don't want wrestling. That's still why we watch this. That's why we love it. We need wrestling. Yes, we want characters. Yes, we want over-the-top segments. Yes, we want emotion, but we want wrestling. And I think this administration has done a better job of balancing that than the previous one. Just my 2 cents. Number 4 has to do with NXT call-ups. Man, NXT call-ups are handled so much better than they used to. My biggest problem with NXT call-ups from like 2015 to 2022, I guess, was you would have developmental, and you would have these characters be created, developed, and they would get over in NXT. And when they were called up, it was like that development got wiped for whatever reason. The point of NXT was to create these characters, establish them, and then when you bring them up to the main roster, they already have an audience, people already know who they are, they have an understanding. It's not like they're coming up from FCW where nobody sees them. That's the advantage you have. So when they'd come up and Vince would want to turn them into completely different characters, it just made no sense. It defeats the entire purpose of having a development process. When Karrion Kross gets over with a character and an entrance on NXT, and then you bring him up and dress him up like a samurai, it doesn't make any sense. He got over this way, and now you want him to be something completely different. You're completely taking away everything that made him special. Why? You defeated the purpose of NXT. Nowadays, Obafemi, who's a badass in NXT, comes up and is a badass on the main roster. Javon Evans is Javon Evans. Trick Williams is Trick Williams. Now they have the bigger overarching machine behind them, so you can take that idea, those things that worked in NXT, and you can make them bigger and you can make them better, but you don't change the fundamentals of what made them work. It never made sense why that happened, but I'm so glad in 2026, I don't have to worry about guys getting called up anymore. If they're over in NXT, I know they're getting called up and they're getting taken care of. Now, is the creative great on the main roster? No, but it's not great in NXT either. So it's not that much of this jump. And number 5, and I think this one is huge, WWE finally is playing well with others. Maybe not AEW, maybe not New Japan, maybe not CMLL, but here's the problem that WWE had for so long, especially with these like NIL prospects that would come in from football or whatever, and then they would go straight into the NXT system, is back in the day, wrestlers were able to grow and become great performers because they got to travel, they got to tour, they got to work in different promotions, different territories, work in front of different crowds with different rosters and different locker rooms, and that is how you grow as a performer. The NXT Performance Center, as great as it is, it's very perfect, it's very manufactured, it's very corporate. You're learning one style, one way to do things, and it makes you very one-dimensional. But when you have these NXT people that are able to go to AAA, which is WWE, but it's still different, or TNA, or Noah in Japan, or the people who have been able to go out and work Bloodsport. Stuff like that is huge, especially for these young, developing NXT talents that get to do that and gain experience outside of just the WWE bubble. It's gonna make them a better performer in the WWE bubble if you let them have that experience. You let them grow as a performer. It's almost like nowadays version of going through the territories before landing in WWE. And for the longest time, WWE just did not want to work with anyone else because they didn't want to be associated with wrestling. Now WWE doesn't fear wrestling as much, so we can envelop ourselves in the wrestling world. I get it, not AEW. Maybe one day, maybe that's a pipe dream. I don't know. Maybe one day we're gonna get that super show, probably in like 20 years. Triple H, Tony, just fucking put the dicks away and let's just talk some business. Can you just give me Ospreay and Dragunov? Please, please. That's all I ask. WWE obviously isn't perfect. There's a lot of issues. I talk about them on my channel. I talked about them in the last top 5 video I did, but I'm not gonna sit here and say the whole product is negative or bad. There's so many things they're doing right. There's so many things they're doing great. There's so many things that for so many years I wanted them to do, and finally we're getting that. And I have to acknowledge that, or I'm not being an honest representation of professional wrestling. Let me know in the comment section below, what is your favorite change about WWE now in 2026 that you missed in years prior? Or on the contrary, what's something that you think could be changed that could make the product even better? Let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate all your guys' support. Subscribe if you're new and you want to, and a like always helps out, and I appreciate it. And I will catch you on the next one.